final report. COVID Select concludes 2-year investigation, issues 500 plus page final report on lessons learned and on the path forward. So read this, but I'm going to give you a synopsis of what the conclusions actually said. Number one, the virus had characteristics that is not found in nature. Isn't that interesting? Number two, social distancing. School and small business shutdowns was arbitrary and not based in science. It was just completely arbitrary, and it was just some kind of fantasy by people who let fear control them or who wanted to control you. Number three, no conclusive evidence that masks protected the American public. Although I would say it harmed people quite a bit. And I even did a video about this, about those masks. You know, they would take it out. They're like, sir, are you wearing a mask? You're like, no. And they would take it out of like a box. And guys, those things had terrible chemicals that you would start breathing in, volatile organic compounds that you would actually breathe in. Number four, their conclusions: lockdown caused immeasurable mental harm. And I think the biggest mental harm was actually to our kids, especially. Number five, the COVID vaccine failed to stop the spread and transmission of the virus. Now, I know this is going to be fact checked on Facebook, or it's going to be throttled and shadow banned, but you know what? That's a hill I am willing to die on. And in fact, if you are familiar with our page, I was one of the first people that was doing CD4, CD8 natural killer cell counts pre and post, and just seeing them tank, afterwards. And I actually predicted this will not slow the spread. And in fact, you're going to see a second wave. And go back and look at the statistics, because one of the things I found from looking at lab tests was what it did to hurt the immune system response, which then would make you susceptible to any virus. Number seven, public health officials ignored natural immunity when developing vaccine mandates. I did a antibody test for my son and saw that he had already had exposure to COV, et cetera, and yet they still required him to do stupid things within the school, even despite already having exposure to it, already having the illness from it, having recovered beautifully from it. And you could see that they made him do some very stupid things. And so they actually ignored natural immunity when developing mandates. They didn't care if you'd already had it or not. And then number eight, the government is failing to fairly and efficiently adjudicate claims for the vaccine injured. Well, you knew that this would happen too, because if you look at the vaccine adverse event reporting system, you will see that it's an absolute kangaroo court, and it's nothing but kabuki theater, in my opinion. So when I say the government is failing, government fails quite a bit. Obviously, it's just a giant bloated behemoth, in my opinion.